It's always an interesting conversation bringing up Undertale. Either you hear endless love and praise for it, or you hear hatred and berating. Most of it being aimed at the fandom for ruining the game. The fandom took the game and turned it into senseless hatred and cringe. I'm joking. Please don't aim your pitchforks at me. In fact, Undertale is a game that I personally think was enhanced by its fandom. Now, I'm going to start from the beginning-ish here, since it's always easier to backtrack in a sense. Undertale was originally a very small indie created by Toby Fox and a small team, mostly including Temmie Chang as the other character designer and animator. The game started as a small project and eventually got help and funding from its community to launch a quick start. Toby Fox wasn't expecting much from the game, and when it got the tons and tons of attention that he originally obtained from it, well, it scared him in a sense. Undertale was a huge success, which has always been so inspiring to me in general. Undertale was an indie game that made more money than fully funded and professional games made. So, that's pretty impressive. Undertale was everywhere, and even if you haven't heard of Undertale before, you have likely seen its most notorious character, Sans Undertale. Sans Undertale, the notorious meme. The beautiful thing about this is that Undertale was based upon such a simple concept. It was a concept that had been done before and that wasn't necessarily new, but at the same time it was, because this time you got consequences for what you did. You didn't have to spare the enemies to continue, but to get a satisfying ending, that's the only way you can do it. You have to spare everyone. You can also choose to kill everyone, which leads to a much less satisfying ending. In fact, I may be speaking alone here, but as someone who has played the No Mercy or Genocide run many times to flex my skills on Sans, here's me killing him again, I always get this empty feeling after completing the No Mercy run. There's nothing left. You've destroyed everything, and you have given your soul up to Kara. I'm calling them Kara in this. Please don't, rip me apart for that. You are no longer in control. It brings up the question of if you ever were. The final route probably has the most branching timelines and brings a sense of questioning to the series in the long run. The neutral route. As boring as people find this route, the more and more I think about it, it's probably where a lot of the concepts from the fandom stemmed. It's probably where a lot of the concepts from the fandom stemmed from. Timelines where your different choices caused something else or something specifically to happen, especially when compared to different actions that lead to different things. So, if you haven't guessed by now, this video will contain major spoilers for Undertale. For example, if you kill all bosses except Papyrus in different combinations of the same idea, Papyrus becomes king of the underground. He rules because there is no one left. Undyne can end up in charge along with all of the other bosses. So, that's where the idea of branching timelines comes from. Every choice you make, there is an alternate reality where you made a different choice. This exists outside of you theoretically, and creates alternate realities and timelines where you chose to do something else that caused your ending to be slightly different. There are so many different combinations and choices for endings in Undertale's neutral routes. Why is this important? Well, let's get into that real quick. The thing that began to pique people's interest, well, it was this silly little skeleton dude. Remember the No Mercy run I mentioned earlier that consists of unaliving everyone in the underground? Well, your character does so until there is no one else. I also mentioned the fact that you have consequences for your actions in this game, meaning that when you choose to go to the most cruel route, you get the harshest punishment. This seemingly lazy skeleton is suddenly kicking your ass and becoming the most grueling boss in the game. Or for some. Personally, I have more issues with Undyne the Undying, and I can't explain why because she is not supposed to be harder than him. But I can beat Sans in like 1 to 3 tries, and It's like, why? Anyway, the interesting part about this fight is that Sans begins to mention when you reset or when you reload your save. When he beats you, he can tell that he's beaten you, and he knows the alternate timelines exist. He even mentions it within his dialogue. Sans is what started this whole situation. Different timelines, alternate realities. See, that is the part that began to spark within people. The Undertale fandom has always been one to be reckoned with, and admittedly, they can be really, really scary. A lot of the times they come off as annoying and controlling because they often push and push and push and push when people are trying to play the game for the first time. They want them to play the right way, and that stifles the experience of the game. Admittedly, that part of the fandom isn't pretty, but I want to stand in defense of the Undertale fandom today. Not necessarily all of them. We don't accept the ones who did all that hateful stuff to others. No, I stand in defense of the fans who truly love the game and will do anything to keep that love and original spark going. As I brought up a few seconds ago, the fandom can get really pushy with pacifist, and although that does ruin the experience of the game, I do want to give a bit of slack on them for this. They know how much more gameplay is available with pacifist, and they want that person to get the absolute best playthrough they can get, without them wasting their time and having to start again. Some creators only plan to play one playthrough, so you may as well do the most satisfying one, right? Well, a lot of fans don't understand that in the end, that takes away the magic of Undertale. It becomes annoying, irritating, and can drive the creators not to want to deal with or play the game in general. It's something that we as a community need to work on, but that may never be fixed. The Undertale fandom is special because its content extends outside the game itself. Now, a lot of games and medias in general have a lot of stuff existing outside of the original content, but I feel as if Undertale is a really big exception here. Undertale itself is a game, a small one at that, but Undertale is more than just a game. If you're confused, allow me to elaborate. Undertale is only so big. And with the idea of AUs and timelines being thrown about by the game, well, it resulted in the fans yearning for more Undertale. So why not just make it? That's where AUs begin to leak in. Suddenly, people were creating different iterations of these characters in different situations and differences in the universe. What if the world wasn't as kind? What if all the monsters were asses? Bam! Undertale. Okay, but what if all the roles in this AU were swapped? What if we changed their personalities? Wow! Underswap. See, I'm not going to go too far into the AU multiverse because it's huge and is ever expanding. But I will pause on them for a bit because they are the entire reason I am creating this video for you today. People began to create AUs with small alternations or differences or huge changes. And they kept doing so. You want more Undertale? Make more Undertale. Suddenly, there's thousands, if not millions, of AUs created. To the point where we have a multiverse created for these characters, made by Yale, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce their name. But here's their information on the screen if you want to go check them out. They have a beautifully animated series that combines all of the AUs together and makes them into this whole multiverse, and it's amazing. Like, that is such a cool idea, and I might be stealing that idea and making my own soon. So, also, they aren't the only ones either. Everything is spiraling outward and will not slow down. This is what I want to pause on for a second. I want you to consider how amazing and awesome this is. Like, listen, these creators care so much about Undertale and love it so much that they are willing to create universes of their own with these characters and create their own story with them. They love it so much that they want to create something that becomes a woven piece of an enormous multiversal web. The smallest disturbance causes all these universes to shudder, for they are all connected. All of this stemming from a small indie game that the creator never expected to have too much attention. The fans love Undertale so much that they created an entire multiverse. They are not canon. The fans love Undertale so much that they created an entire multiverse that is not canon, but is fanon. Like this changed the game completely because this happened. It's huge. It's inspiring. If these people care enough to create their own universe and multiverse even, why can't I? And that's how it starts. One person having an idea spirals into the entire community, creating something that couldn't have been even fathomed before it existed. We have the power to create our own alternate universes with these characters, and we have the power to shift and change things about them. We have the power to tell our own stories of these characters. A lot of people take that initiative, and that is something so beautiful to me. The fact that something this intricate and wonderful could have been made just by the fans alone. Like, that is the part I really want to stress, because the game is only like 10 hours, give or take, also depending on what route you play. This fandom has turned that into months and months, years, even decades of content. If you want Undertale, you will never run out of material to work with. Undertale has always been a special game, special to its community and special to the gaming world in general. As much as it has been memed and as much as people dislike the fandom, I want to take a step back and appreciate the game that made this enormous and ever-expanding community possible. Undertale will always be special. It's a game that took these expectations and flipped them on their head. Your consequences matter in this game, and although that itself isn't a new concept, the most powerful part of this game is its characters. They're fun, they are memorable, and to some, they are more special than a lot of characters in the media. That's why there are so many AUs of them, because people care so much about these characters. They have so much to them, and they are so lovable. There's something about Undertale that is highly magical. Whether it's nostalgia for me at this point, or perhaps there is something more. Either way, I highly suggest that if you haven't played this game, that you give it a chance. It might end up changing your life. I know it changed mine, and thousands of others. Thank you. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I went a little bit longer than usual in this video because Undertale means a lot to me. So, with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I will see you all next time.